everybody? Tyron the God 3 here, and welcome to a discussion video I decided to do. The world of Pokemon has many type of gamers. They have gamers who just specifically like to collect shiny Pokemon. There's people who like the story. There's people who like to give their Pokemon wacky nicknames. And then there's the meta competitive field. And here with me, I have a guest. Introduce yourself, sir.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Marcus, and I am a gamer, and they might know me as the Pokemon Professor, because I have a series about Pokemon and professoring.
Professoring indeed. I brought Mr. Marcus over here, the professor himself, because Pokemon competitive-wise is a completely different world than just regular battling during the storyline or just having a casual battle with your friends here and there. The competitive side has been going on for quite a bit, and I notice a lot of times that I do discussions with you guys, it's only about, you know, the game bare bones or the anime. And we rarely do get the chance to talk about competitive battles. And after that last rant that I went on Komodo and his overpowered freaking... Anyway, we're not here to talk about the Z move right now, although we probably will slip into the discussion. The Pokemon Professor Marcus and I are here today in order to just talk about the competitive cycle of games and how we got into competitive battling and some stories, and after that we can discuss a little bit of things in terms of what items to use, what to expect if you're competitive battling. Just sort of like a little foot in the water for those who are curious about competitive Pokemon gaming. So, Marcus, how did you get into the competitive scene of Pokemon?
So when I was a kid, I got this wonderful game for the GameCube, known as Pokemon Coliseum. And
love that game.
Oh, that game is so good. It really, like, got me, like, thinking about better strategies and stuff like that. So from that point, I was always looking up, like, different strategies to use. And back then in Gen 3, it was obviously, like, using a drought strategy with, Groudon or Drizzle strategy with, Kyogre, and utilizing that in doubles to the fullest potential. And from there, I started playing with my friends casually, but it wasn't until last year where I entered my first VGC tournament at Aeon Gaming. If you guys know who Shady Penguin is, he runs a tournament in Long Island, and I pretty much started going in from that point. Like, okay, I didn't want to know all the strategies. I want to know everything that's going on. So it's been pretty casual, just playing with my friends up until that point, and then at that point I'm just like, I need to know everything about VGC and different strategies to make pretty much optimal sets, and it's just epic, honestly. But yeah.
Right. Okay, and as for me, I got into the competitive scene actually thanks to a couple of YouTubers online. I was watching YouTube various times, and I was introduced to this guy named Marilyn, and he did a lot of, you know, Pokemon discussions while he was doing his playthroughs of Pokemon. And this was around when Diamond and Pearl was out, and he actually made a website, and the website actually came equipped with a team builder to where if you type in a bunch of Pokemon that are on your team, it will point out all the weaknesses and flaws of that team and what Pokemon they recommend you should use to cover different Pokemon and things like that. Then later on, I got introduced to Tamashi, and she was teaching about EV training along with Jay Witz and several other YouTubes, and they made tutorial videos from there. And I think at that point I decided to go ahead and watch a VGC's match, VGC's championships, on YouTube, because they were doing it. They didn't do it live yet. They were just sort of record it and then post it on at that point. And I picked up on it, and, you know, I was like, you know what, the competitive scene looks pretty cool. I've never gotten to enter any of those tournaments, but I go to a lot of anime conventions, and in anime conventions, they play tournaments pretty much the same way. So I really got interested from there on, and I devoted a lot of time to just building really powerful teams, EV training and IV training. And it also helped that my stepbrother was also into competitive battling too, so we would actually trade each other Pokemon necessary to get the evolved ones, or we would tell each other, okay, yo, here's where all the Pokemon are. They give you good IVs and attack stat or something like that, and we would keep going from there. And that's basically how I got in from there. So that's my history with it, and I've been just sort of in and out of the competitive scene ever since. And one of the things I do want to do at one point before, you know, I die is compete in the VGCs in place.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
like, I just wanted to bring up a point. Like when you said that you, like you first saw like EV stats and training and stuff like that from like J-Wits and Tamashi and stuff like that. Honestly, I was thinking the same exact thing. Like that is exactly how.
Yeah, and also,
starts.
yeah, I think also like Shofu and Hayden also taught about it as well. Famous Pokemon battlers.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, with that said, Marcus, one of the things in competitive battling, now that you've gotten introduced to, what is one of the things that confused you the most about getting into competitive battling? Well, what was the thing that made you the most puzzled? Because I know a lot of fans on my channel, as they're watching this now, and some might be actually experts, but some of them may be new to it, and they may be going, okay, what are the things that we need to know real fast about competitive battling that would help us get into it very easily? And what are the things that puzzled you the most?
Oh boy. Oh, okay. It's my turn. It's a little bit of a rant, but the one thing that I always say about competitive Pokemon and stuff like that is the fact that the level of entry is still very, very high. They lowered it a lot in this generation by introducing bottle caps, and in the previous generation they introduced super training in order to EV train more efficiently, and having the judging meter so that you could like see how good your Pokemon actually are. But the first thing that always comes to mind, especially if you're getting into Pokemon VGC, is knowing if your Pokemon are actually good enough to compete based on their EVs and their IVs especially, which is becoming more and more apparent. From there, like once you know like what you want to build your team around, it mostly comes down to a matter of like sticking to a certain strategy in VGC especially.
And for those that, I'm just going to go ahead and give you all a brief description of what Marcus is talking about. Before a lot of battling, you know, after you do a lot of battling, some people may wonder what are IVs and EVs. Just to give a brief summary of what they are, and I'll just start off with the easiest one to understand, which is EVs. EVs are basically effort values. They used to be an invisible meter that showed, you know, how much of a stat your Pokemon, how much stat increase your Pokemon is going to get prior to leveling up. And this was usually based on what Pokemon you beat. So, for example, we're going to use this very obscurely to squeeze into the anime. Remember that moment where Pikachu killed like a bunch of Spearow at the first episode? Well, Spearow give you speed IVs by like +1. So let's say hypothetically, the anime and the games were fused together in the same world. Pikachu would have gotten a crap ton of EV points just for killing all those Spearow with Thunderbolt. So basically, the more Pokemon that you beat that specialize in that stat, that's what stat increase your Pokemon is going to get once it levels up. So ergo, if I have an Infernape, and the Infernape beats a lot of Geodudes before it levels up, even though it's not the most ideal thing to do, Infernape's next level, he'll get a bunch of points in his defense stat. Just because he beat all of those Geodudes. Now, for the tough one, IVs. Oh boy. Okay. Marcus, you want to go ahead and take this one?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so IVs they're a little tricky to understand. They've been made easier in this generation with the judging system. I say that again. Which I forget how you get the judging system in the game, but pretty much in a nutshell, it's hidden values once again based on random RNG when you catch the Pokemon, how good it is in each stat. So on a scale of like 0 to 100, or they consider it poor to like best, how good it is in attack. And that's a value that you cannot change previously to this generation. So say you have what's a good example of an attacking Pokemon? Let's just go with Infernape. It's a good attacking Pokemon. You have an Infernape, and it has decent attack power. If you want to up that attack power, the only way that you could up it is either by rebreeding for another Infernape, or by using a bottle cap, which increases a particular stat to its best ability, and that stacks on to your EVs, your IVs, and your nature. And those are really the three components that determine how good a Pokemon will be in that stat. It sounds a little confusing, but once you see it like on screen, you'll be like, oh, that's what that is, you know?
Right, and if you don't want to get a Pokemon, if you don't want to get bottle caps in order for a Pokemon to become, you know, the perfect IV Pokemon, because they get these the moment they're born, what you can do is breed it a lot of eggs, and once you breed it a lot of eggs, you get your Pokemon into the daycare and breed a lot of eggs, you go to the battle tree, and once you go to the battle tree, you'll talk to this guy, and this guy will basically give you the ability to check your Pokemon's IVs from your computer, from any computer in any Pokemon Center. And that's how you'll determine if your Pokemon has really good IVs, really bad IVs. And the best way to also do this is to use the Everstone and the Destiny Knot to pass natures and IVs down. So the goal here essentially is, can you make a Pokemon who's born with really good stats, and then once you do, can you boost those stats even more to justify the stats that they're pretty much already born with, in order to make them basically the perfect Pokemon. And this is a lot of the things you need to learn when you do competitive battling. And it is time consuming, but at the same time, they've made it easier every generation.
Yeah, eventually, hopefully, a lot of people have been asking is that, and I speak to like battle tubers on Twitch and stuff like that, and they're like, hopefully one day we'll get to the point where you could just like spend your battle points to like buy perfectly EV and IV'd Pokemon, which sounds a little crazy, but honestly, I think it'd be kind of cool, and it'd help a lot of battlers, because you think about it, it's like you have to invest a lot of time, sometimes like 10 plus hours into making one perfect Celesteela. And a lot of people might not have that time, but they could be a great battler. So it's like,
ain't nobody got time for that.
Exactly.
So with that being said, though, Marcus, what was your first perfect Pokemon? Did you ever get a perfect Pokemon, or what was your first perfect Pokemon?
What was my first Pokemon? Okay, so this is gonna sound a little cheesy, but like I got my first perfect Pokemon in a trade, because back in the, I believe it was the Gen 5 days when I used to play with my friends. My friend Victor, he had a lot of Steel type Pokemon, so he traded me this Onix that had perfect like IVs and like defense and like special defense, and I'm like, why would you just give this to me? So I did all the EV training and stuff like that, and to this day I still have the Steelix. It is a monster. It literally it has 543 defense, like
nice.
In the game, level 100. It's crazy. You put it in, and I just like to do a Stealth Rock's Roar strategy, just to like annoy my opponent, to like throw them out and like batter their health like as much as I can. And it works really well in this generation, because this generation, I hope I'm not going too off topic. Oh god. But,
no, it's fine.
In this generation, I feel it's very controlled by Pokemon that have a lot of defense and can stay in battle for as long as possible, because once again, we have Celesteela, which is a huge factor in this meta. That is just, if you ever played a Celesteela, it is so annoying to take down, because leftovers, leech seed, it's crazy. It's crazy.
My first one was a recent one, actually, because I have the bad habit of getting perfects in every IV except for like the one. But sometimes it's just the one that I don't need, so I say screw it and just have the Pokemon be a battling Pokemon anyway. It's like, okay, I don't need a Raichu with perfect IVs and defense. Screw it. Although that probably would be the one difference in Raichu staying alive or Raichu getting knocked out.
Yeah.
But usually if you're using a Raichu, you're more than likely doing a glass cannon type of one-hit thing.
Yes.
Where Raichu shouldn't be getting hit anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, my perfect Pokemon was actually a Tyrant, and it was on accident.
Oh my god, yes. I love Tyrant.
I was breeding Pokemon, and I forgot. I ended up switching out Tyrant for another Pokemon on accident, and I left Tyrant in with the Ditto, and I was like, wait a minute, how come my Noibat isn't hatching? I was like, wait a minute, Tyrant's in the daycare, not Noibat. I went back, they laid an egg, I ran around, it hatched into a perfect goddamn Tyrant.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
And I'm like, this is bullshit. Seriously, like, I've been trying to make perfect Noibats all day. I make a perfect Tyrant on accident. I don't even fine, I'll use them. But then again, he's become my favorite, so you can't knock him. But yeah, it's just things like that. It's funny thing, and you're gonna run into moments like that if you're competitive battling. It's just, first of all, you're gonna need a Ditto. Like, that's just required now, I think.
Yep.
They should just make Dittos really easy to find at this point.
Oh, but they don't, and they're so annoying to get like the 6 IV Dittos, because in this generation, if you try doing the chain SOS thingy against the Ditto that just transforms into you, it's so annoying and so drawn out. Like, finding a 6 IV Ditto the odds of it are so low, like, but they're necessary. They're necessary nowadays.
I've done the clef key trick to try to get my Dittos.
Yep. Same here. Here. That trick is awesome.
And I'll explain the clef key trick in probably a separate video to help other people out. But as of now, it's a very time consuming. And again, that brings up the whole point that competitive battling can be time consuming, but it can pay off. And one of the things that's most fun about competitive battling is when you take a Pokemon that no one expects to be competitively viable and make it competitively viable.
Absolutely, and to add on to that, I just want to say Kyoto Otsubo from the Worlds. If you guys saw Worlds, there was this Japanese player, Kyoto, and he had a Whimsicott in grand finals, and everyone slept on Whimsicott. So the thing about Whimsicott, it doesn't have the most stellar stats, but its ability Prankster. It's phenomenal. If you don't know what Prankster is, Prankster increases your priority moves on status inflicting moves by 1. So it's pretty much you get a fake out priority every single turn. So he was using like Nature Power, and Nature Power is an attacking move, but it's considered a status move, and he would just chip people out with like Moonblast and Thunderbolts. Nature Power.
No!
It was so good, and the nastiest thing of all is he put a Normilium Z onto his Whimsicott. So he would use Normilium Z, Nature Power, gives him priority, and it gives him a Z attack, so he would just freaking, like, twinkle.
Decimate.
Yeah, it was insanity, and, like, no one knew how to deal with it, because he had just the perfect chip-out strategy, and it carried him through the tournament, and it was incredible to watch, because people sleep on Whimsicott. People didn't know what to do, like,
and that's another thing I probably would wonder, and I think you can agree with me on this one, Marcus. One of the things that you have to do in Pokemon is learn the Pokemon, not just your Pokemon that you're using on the team, every Pokemon.
Absolutely, and it's particularly hard in this generation because, like, although we do have our commonly seen Pokemon in VGC, like Tapu Koko, Tapu Fini,
Ultra Beast,
what's another big one? Marowak, Arcanines, those Pokemon that are very common. You still have 300 Pokemon to choose from in the pool because the rule set for this year was any Pokemon in the Alolan Dex, and you could find a lot of Pokemon in Alola. It was a
Right.
pretty big dex. So, like, Pokemon like Whimsicott that you hardly saw were just like, what do they want to do? I'm not entirely sure. And that's what you got to watch out for. There's so much to memorize.
And yeah, and not just within Pokemon, there's going to be terms that you're going to need to learn too. Like, a lot of people don't know what Sleep Claws means, Sweeper, Tanker. You know, I think you used one earlier. It's just like the priority thing. People don't...
Oh.
Because the game doesn't use those terms in game. So if you're playing the playing the game, the game itself doesn't say, oh, this has priority or something like that. It just sort of says, you know, what it says. And you have to decipher that sometimes. So it's just like, oh, this sword dance sharply increases a Pokemon's attack power, where in technical babble or technical jargon in metagame, that means it increases your Pokemon's attack power by 1 stage.
Yeah,
and you need to know those jargons in order to take advantage of, you know, the playing field.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I say the level of entry is still extremely high, because the game doesn't teach you. And I feel like this is a callback to one of the videos that I made, but the only game to really teach you about different strategies and meta and stuff like that was Pokemon Coliseum and XD in Generation 3. They don't blatantly tell you like what these moves do. You have to learn, once again, little callback to the beginning of the video, from like 2 PokeTubers like Jaywitz and Tamashi, because like how am I supposed to know what EV training and hidden stats are? They're hidden. Like, why would they hide this from us? Like, this is stuff that they should at least put in, like, they should, like, give you a tutorial mode, like, a bonus tutorial mode, like, you know, not like a mandatory, because, like, once again, some people do play the game to like just collect, and that's cool. But then there are those people that are just like, hey, I want to beat all my friends. I want to go to the schoolyard. I want to go to my brother Timmy and just be like, yo, Timmy, check out this Bisharp I just trained. It's awesome. You're gonna get wrecked and critical hit like crazy because I know about EV and IV training and item usage. Like, but there's none of that. There's none of that. It's disappointing.
Yeah, and another thing that newcomers to the game will know, you can't just rely, like, the fun part about competitive battling is technically you can make any Pokemon viable if you can work your team around it. But teamwork is the key, and I think you would agree with me there. It's like switching out Pokemon to, say I have a Venusaur. Venusaur is weak against Ice, Psychic, Fire, stuff like that. So you're going to need something that covers Ice, Psychic, Fire, Flying, you know, things like that. Well, what covers Fire and Flying? Rock. So you're going to need a Rock-type Pokemon to cover that Venusaur. So, I don't know, Golem. And you work from there. So one of the things you're going to have to learn is how to switch out and how to make a team based around the Pokemon you're trying to revolve the team around. Because I know in VGCs with the guy who used Whimsicott, I'm sure he had a team that covered Whimsicott's weaknesses.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He had an Alolan Marowak to cover the fact that Whimsicott cannot hit steel types pretty much indefinitely. It just struggles against steel types. So that Marowak was there to flare blitz into anything that he may have trouble
types.
with. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I think we can both agree, that's something that you would do, is have a Pokemon to cover those Pokemon. And I think it's also pretty funny, way back in Pokemon Stadium 2, which was called Pokemon Stadium Gold and Silver or something, in Japan. Way back in Pokemon Stadium 2, there was actually Earl's Pokemon Academy. It's a little mode, it's a tutorial mode for new people that went to competitive battling. Was actually really helpful. You know, they had an entire, like, stat chart for Pokemon. They had types and which ones have advantages over which, what Pokemon can learn what moves. It was basically kind of what the internet is now for Pokemon. If you want to look up a Pokemon, or what Smogon is, or Nugget Bridge or other websites where people go to do that. And that's another thing. And I'll send those links in the description. A couple of websites that you guys would want to go to. Do you see yourself using any of these websites, Marcus?
Oh yeah, like I find myself on Cerebi on a daily basis and Smogon and all those sites because it's really become the ultimate way to learn how to use competitive Pokemon other than actually watching different battles and different strategies go down on like Twitch and YouTube and stuff like that. So there are a lot of good sources, but the only issue is that Pokemon doesn't provide these sources. Like if there is an official Pokemon website with all the stats, all the Pokedex entries, all the strategies and stuff like that, I'd be like, okay, Pokemon, you're doing your job and stuff like that. But we don't have that, and it's like, come on, guys. Like I don't want to watch, like, especially like at the beginning of a meta, like we're 2017 is ending and we're going to be entering the 2018 series. People are in theory not going to have any idea like what strategies will work anymore, and Pokemon's pretty much just like, hey, good luck, throw you into the mix, here are 500 Pokemon that you could choose from or something like that, and people are just gonna be like, what? So I mean, it's interesting to see what players can come up with, but a little guidance would be nice, you know. Because they made the game, like, you know, you don't see games like Street Fighter not giving you a combo list or anything like that. Like,
right.
It's important. It's important.
Yeah, and I wish I can see that they're slowly helping, but it still feels like an underground thing. Like most of the things that help you in competitive play are usually done at the post game, when people are more than likely done playing Pokemon.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's an actual problem, because then, first of all, you only get into competitive battling if you care long enough to keep it going. Second, which most young kids aren't going to, like, if they see the credits, that means game over. So that's already, it should be something that's introduced, not forced into the story, but introduced to give them an eye of, hey, this is a thing I can do. I remember they took away, what was it, the super training thing with the toys? Like
the soccer game.
Yeah, you could attack the soccer game with the balloon. I liked that.
Uh-huh.
It helped.
Yeah, like, it was a very, like, welcoming thing to say, like, hey, play this mini game and it'll make your Pokemon stronger, you know? But they took that out, and it's like, now, like, I stream pretty often, and you would not believe the amount of questions that I get, which seem simple. Like, I had a person come in and tell me, like, hey, what's the battle tree? What are you doing? What is this? And I'm like, oh, no. Like, this is something that the game should just blatantly tell you. Just like, hey, there's a place where you can become stronger and learn new things, you know?
And Marcus, it doesn't help that when you finally do decide to do things like that, I went to the battle tree and I learned how many battle points I need to get in order to get specific items that will help, and we'll go into that later. But there's items that help you in competitive play, items that are pretty much I think at this point necessary, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty necessary, obviously, because Pokemon they advertise Z moves a lot, but only one Pokemon can hold not only one, they can all hold Z crystals, but only one Z move can be used per battle, so you're more than likely going to use that Z slot for one Pokemon. Then there's other items you're going to need to use. Those items cost battle points, not money, and they cost an obnoxious amount.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you'll find yourself grinding the battle tree like, I don't know. I've challenged the battle tree a grand total of about 20 to 30 times just to come close to one item I needed. And that's obnoxious. And that definitely doesn't help people who want to get in the competitive scene, because it's like, oh, I want an assault vest. Too bad I'm going to have to challenge the battle tree like 100 times if I want to even come close to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's just like you need to win with bad items, and it's like, how am I supposed to do that? Because they're absolutely necessary for certain Pokemon. Like, if you come in with a Phermosa with no focus sash, you're pretty much not even using your Formosa's pretty much just not even being used to its best ability. And like a lot of Pokemon, like Formosa might be someone's favorite Pokemon. Is like, why can't I make this Pokemon work? Because I don't have the item that I need to spend 36 BP on. But anytime I go into the double battles tree, I get bopped by red at the end and only end up with like 9 battle points. So now I have to do that like 4 more times and waste like 3 hours. Like, come on.
Yeah, and it also doesn't help that the items that we mentioned EV training before. There's items that can help you, assist you, and make things a lot easier for your Pokemon when it comes to EV training, but they cost BP.
Dude, and they're really hard to find in the game. I had to Google, like, where do I find these items? Are they still in the game? Like,
right. So on top of the fact that you gotta get those items and get the items that are viable to make for competitive battling, on top of the fact that the AI cheats in Battle Tree. It cheats. I don't care. Like,
you're right. You're right.
It cheats. A Snorlax should not have more speed than me. Like, that's bullshit.
Oh my god.
Or 2-3 crits in a row. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Get out of here. So on top of all of those factors, it feels like if you're wanting to get into competitive battling, you got so much against you to hop right in, and they need to fix that.
Yeah, like the game does not help you at all. They should honestly like and this is something that I haven't talked about in a long time, but do you remember a game called Pokemon Battle Revolution for the Nintendo Wii?
Unfortunately, yes.
Like,
that game moved slow. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it was very, very slow, but it did give you added opportunity to get battle points at an easier rate because this progression scale of difficulty was actually at an acceptable rate, you know? It wasn't too hard at the beginning, not too easy, but it allowed you to, like, set your toes in the sand, and then by post-game, then things started to, like, ramp up, and they started using really hard strategies. But in that game, you can use the points you earn from battling, whether you win or lose, to get the items that you need and transfer them into your game, which is really good and really solid. But we haven't seen something like that since Gen 4, and Gen 4 was like when I was in high school. It has to have been like 8 years ago at this point,
right? So yeah, it's crazy that if you want to do competitive battling, you're gonna have to be patient, but it is a good payoff because one, you meet a lot of great people. Like, if they're good sports, obviously, you're gonna wind up befriending a lot of great people. I know when I went to anime conventions, they had these things called like I went to Anime Iowa one time, and they had this thing called the Iowan Pokemon League, and you just sort of battle all these guys, and you get a badge for beating them. And then you could do like the whole little Pokemon League thing where you all fight against each other. You meet a lot of great people, and I'm sure VGCs you met a lot of great people as well, Marcus.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like the events that you go to are really great. People generally in the Pokemon community are really chill and really helpful. Even if they're like a top player, everyone wants to see everyone progress. And if you have the opportunity to go to these events, and this is what I commend Pokemon for, they are all about their Pokemon events. If you go on their official website, you could look up tournaments in your local area to go to for the upcoming 2018 season. And it's really great. You meet a lot of great people. I actually met Shady Penguin and Mr. Talent, who are 2 very popular YouTubers. I also met one of my friends, Agent V, who's an awesome PokeTuber, and Slurp VGC. They're really awesome people, and these are like lifelong friendships that you make over a game. Which I feel it's great, but if you don't feel prepared to go into a tournament, it could be a little intimidating, you know?
Right.
Yeah, so Yeah.
And that's just the thing though. That's one of the reasons I encourage a lot of people to don't just try to enter the big tournaments like regionals, nationals, those. Start your own events. Like have get-togethers. Say, hey, we're all going. We can all go to my place and we can have battles, or we can all group up at a library or something like that, and meet up with people who play Pokemon and do things like that. And then that'll definitely help too, because I know one of the things, like I mentioned earlier in the video, my stepbrother and I both play competitively. And I gotta say, since we both play competitively, it was like, hey, I got this Haunter and you've got a Machoke. Obviously, we need each other to, trade to get the Gengar and the Machamp or the Alakazam or whatever, and so that we can get the Pokemon we need in order to move forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Pokemon is still very much a community-driven thing, which is why they still make 2 games for every single game, because they want you to interact with other people to like complete your Pokedex and get better at the game as well. But and
I could say Wonder Trading's also would be a good one, a good start up on that too, because you're going to be breeding a lot of Pokemon, and there's going to be a lot of Pokemon a lot of baby Pokemon that you don't need anymore, like offspring Pokemon. Throw them in Wonder Trade. It's like, now you don't have to just release those Pokemon. Now you go throw them in Wonder Trade. And I gotta be honest, Marcus, this has been pretty funny. I've actually gotten some really good IV Pokemon from Wonder Trade.
Really?
Yeah, I've got some. Like, I got a near perfect Bulbasaur. I guess the person who was doing this, they wanted to breed the perfect Bulbasaur. So they got a near perfect one and traded it off. So I was able to use the near perfect Bulbasaur to breed a perfect one.
Oh, yep, you got the Breeject, as we call it.
The Breejects, yeah, there we go, the Breejects. So yeah, but that's the thing though, I think that's topping off what you just said and what I said recently, how, get into the community. It may be hard at first, but once you get the hang of things, like it doesn't even become a chore anymore. I think, is that something I think can be safe to be said, Marcus?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially once you meet other people that are battle. Like, I cannot tell you the amount of times that I've traded a Breeject like with one of my friends. We both traded each other Breejects, and then we just finished each other's jobs, and then it's just like, oh look, I have a perfect IV Bulbasaur now. Nice. Thanks man, high five, let's battle and kill each other in battle. But that's beside the point. But it's very important to keep the Pokemon community strong and let more people in. Let's say you're a top player watching this right now. You probably know the value of how important it is to talk to lower level players and let them know, like, hey, this is something you could try, so that they could get better, and then they could just pass on knowledge. Because right now we're living in a time of Pokemon where it's literally like, tell this person, and then they'll tell another, and then tell another, and they'll tell another, and they'll tell another, and it just goes down the line. And we're lucky we have the internet to do that. But back in the day, when they had Gen 1 tournaments, there was none of that. There was no YouTube. There was none of this, man. So you actually had to go out of your way to, like, a card shop and, like, talk to people, And Pokemon Stadium tournaments back in the day, they were dumb. It was just controlled by Cloyster and Onyx and all Zapdos and all the legendary Pokemon. It was silly, right. But like that is the roots of this game, and it's developed into something so much greater, which I'm very proud to say that we're a part of, and this is it feels like a video that's just like spreading the word, like, hey, these things exist. If you love Pokemon, then why not go out to these things, and like, even though you might not be the best, it's just fun to come up with strategies and become stronger and be the best that ever was,
Right. And the only thing I think that you're limited by in terms of Pokemon setups is your own imagination. Well, that and the rules and regulations of VGC. But but that's neither here nor there. But I mean, when you want to set up a team, And this isn't even if you're doing a tournament. If you just want to, what's it called? Open regionals. Like, you just want to do your own thing. Free battle. And you want to test out something. I highly recommend Pokemon Showdown as a website. It's a battle simulator. You set up Pokemon, you give them the items that you want them to have, give them the moves you want them to have. You can even manipulate the stats to what you want them to have, within reason, obviously. And you just make a team and send it out to battle. If it works and its win ratio is really high, then go to your game, your Sun and Moon or Ultra Sun and Moon, maybe when you're watching this video, and build that team up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then things like that'll happen. It's just one thing that I really want a lot of people to get from this video is competitive battling can be a big step to take in Pokemon, and I think I'm right by saying that, right, Professor?
Yes. Yeah.
But it's well worth it. The ends more than justify the means. It takes a lot of time and patience, and not everybody's going to be excellent at it. Obviously, every great player you know of had to start from somewhere.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, like it's amazing, like the amount of hidden talent that is out there. I mean, I once again, I stream often, and I meet these players that just they have me read. Like I can't make a move. They know the next step and know how. They just read me like a book, and I'm just like, dude, why haven't I never heard of you? Like, you can really become like a great at this game, but it's just a matter of getting out there and just trying, and another thing that is great about the community is like the Twitch community in Pokemon, because that's where I find I interact with the most amount of people and learn more about the game, So even, let's say you're nowhere near a tournament, just going into a Twitch channel, which there are a lot of battle streamers out there, and playing them, that streamer will know you, and then they can enhance your gameplay, or you can even enhance their gameplay, because this game is so huge. I can't stress that enough. It is so huge. Like, there are
it's an RPG with literally 802 characters in it. So
yeah, exactly. Like, it's a PvP RPG. Like, can Final Fantasy say they have a PvP RPG? No, they don't, because they have a fighting game for some reason. I don't know why Final Fantasy has a fighting game, but they just do, which is awesome. Dissidia is awesome. Anyway, but derailing.
I played a little bit of that myself.
Oh, that game is so good. Okay, sorry, but
no, it's fine.
Yeah, it's important to remember to keep interacting. Like, don't just keep your awesome battle strategies to yourself. Like, who knows? Maybe you could come up with something completely awesome. Like, who was the person that invented the Rattata focus sash facade strategy?
Oh, my goodness, yeah, that was. But that's what competitive battling does. It makes you think of things like that. It's just, who would have ever thought of that if we hadn't got into such intense competitive play? And it's all breaking Pokemon down to a math and a science. It's just, okay, and you're going to need different varieties of attacks, or what Pokemon does what. It's like, okay, this Pokemon does this much. Using it like this will do this. And like I said, with 802 characters, you're bound to find something creative out of using a Pokemon that nobody's ever thought of. I mean, I'm sure no one ever thought to use Pachirisu to dominate a tournament before that ended up happening.
Yep. I believe that was in the 2013 or 2012 Worlds, where Xianghu Park or something. Oh god, I butchered his name. He came into grand finals of the Pokemon World Tournament with a Pachirisu, where he manipulated the fact that Pachirisu actually has pretty stellar defenses, pretty stellar. And he used follow me strategies to focus all the attack on that Pachirisu so that his Garchomp could set up a swords dance and just sweep the entire team. It was ridiculous. No one has seen anything like that, and it took a world championship, and that man is legendary for doing that. Mm-hmm.
So, with all this said, basically, the overall thoughts you have on competitive battling, Marcus, and what would you have to say if, just if someone was still on the fence about it?
I would say that if you're new to competitive battling, just know it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work in order to get a team that you would feel comfortable going out with, because no one wants to go to a tournament with a team they don't believe in. I've done it once. It's not a good feeling. But it's a lot of work, but the results and the payback that you get back from it, even if you don't win, is incredible and life-changing and a lot of fun. So I would definitely say that if you have a few hours to spare, build up a team, look up a tournament in your area, and go to it and see how you do and meet people, and who knows, maybe you'll get hooked, maybe you want to go to more, maybe you'll realize it's not for you and you're just a shiny hunter at the end of the day, which is I respect shiny hunters to the end, because I get tired.
That actually takes patience.
Yeah, dude, 2,000 soft resets for a shiny Lugia, no thank you, I'm good.
Right.
That's just me, but it's a great community, and I feel very passionately about just the game in general. And yeah, just go for it.
For me, because like I said at the beginning, I've never gone to any of the big tournaments. I want to. That's something, once I have a decent car and I can make trips like that, I want to do it. I want to book hotels and go to big events like that. But if you're in my situation where you don't have a method of transportation like that, or you're just starting, check out videos. Check out Shofu, check out Hayden. Watch a Hayden video or a Shofu video every day, and learn. Or watch Pimp Night for some. Pimp Night's actually pretty cool because he does this thing where certain people actually make a request. Can you do an all this team or an all steel team or an all low priority team or, things like that, or a trick room team. And then he battles with that type of team, or he'll literally sweep an entire team with one Pokemon, and he'll tell you the steps in which he did it. Watch videos like that. There's a bunch of them on YouTube. Watch them daily, and you'll learn some stuff. You'll definitely learn things. They'll start to use phrases and jargons like entry hazards, sleep claws, para-hacks, things like that. Stuff that, only consistent Pokemon competitive gamers know about. And once you learn them, I swear your battling skills will become a lot more advanced. It was one of the reasons I think, Marcus, why the storyline for people like us is no big deal. Because at that point, we know so much about the battling mechanics, we can just sweep through everything.
Yep.
Yeah, because you're going to have to do things like that. I know there's going to be situations where you don't even make one attack. You just switch out constantly because you got to predict your opponent's switch ins. So they're my opponent's about to switch into Dragonite. I better go ahead and switch out my Dragon Pokemon for a Fairy type. That way, the minute Dragonite comes out, I got a Fairy type on standby. And then, since I got my Fairy type, they're going to try to switch out to a Poison type. Luckily, my Fairy type has a Ground type move to counter that Poison type.
Well, we're getting into the world of reads right now. Let's go.
Yeah. So, that's the thing you're going to have to do, though. Is you're going to have to read your opponent's moves. And then once you learn things like that, you'll definitely... It is a... And I can ask you the same question, Marcus. I believe, is it a wave of just satisfaction to successfully read an opponent's move?
Yeah, it's a rush. It's a really fun rush, because once again, this is the only RPG PvP game, you know? So if you like RPGs like I do, like Final Fantasy and stuff like that, what other game are you gonna get where you could battle real people and try to outsmart them? Because like Pokemon is like a chess match. It's like a really intense chess match, you know? And it's if you like just outwitting your opponent, you know, then it's the perfect game to pick up. So, yeah.
So, with that said, go out there, have fun in competitive Pokemon battles. I'm going to try to make more videos on this channel that talk about things like entry hazards, battle items, switch-ins, reads, things like that. And, you know, just to help exemplify the points that we made today even more. And if you can't wait for things like that, then I would go ahead and check out our professor here. Marcus is a gamer. He makes great videos. He talks in depth about what these Pokemon can do at their potential when you use them. Certain Pokemon that he prefers using because of how he battles, his battle style. And there's definitely a lot of things that you can learn from him as well. He was one of the YouTubers I'm referencing when I said go and watch a YouTuber a day. Check out his channel. The link will be in the description. Also, the link to his Twitter. Thank you so much for being here, Marcus. You've been a great introduction to our fans on how competitive battles work.
Thanks. I appreciate being here, and thank you for allowing me to be on the show. Appreciate it, man.
All right. So if you guys want to go check that out, go ahead. Link will be in the description. I'm going to tweet about this as well, so you can go ahead and check that out in the tweet. And with that said, everybody, I will see you all then. The next time, Tyrone the Guy 3 out.
Bye.